The story begins with a legendary figure standing beneath the sky, a sword resting firmly in her hand. In this country, there once existed a female knight whom everyone called the strongest. Her reputation was known far and wide. People in towns and cities constantly talked about her achievements. No matter how powerful her opponents were, no matter how difficult the battle became, she had never lost a single fight. To ordinary people, she was less like a human and more like an unstoppable force of nature. So when rumors suddenly began spreading that she was leaving the Knight Order, the entire country was shocked. Nobody could understand why the strongest knight would abandon the very organization that had made her famous. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the Astrum Knights, a woman was explaining the situation to a young man named Carlo. According to her, the Knight Order had been suspended, leaving many knights without a place to belong for the time being. Carlo listened quietly, although he couldn't help wondering why this woman always seemed so harsh whenever she spoke to him. Then she suddenly asked him for a favor. Not a small favor either. She wanted Carlo to take care of one particular knight. More specifically, she wanted them to live together for a while. Naturally, Carlo was confused. But then she revealed the real reason behind her request. The goal was simple. Carlo needed to teach her what happiness felt like. And just like that, the strongest knight in the country was entrusted to him. Before long, Carlo brought the knight to his home. The mansion itself was enormous, originally belonging to his grandfather's palace. The place was so large that it almost felt empty. As Carlo guided her inside, he explained that he was the only one living there now. The girl simply listened in silence. In fact, silence seemed to be her natural state. Trying to make her feel comfortable, Carlo showed her the room he had prepared. He had genuinely put effort into it. The room contained luxurious furniture and various decorations. There was even a stuffed rabbit waiting on the bed. As she quietly sat down, Carlo suddenly began regretting the advice he had received from his sister. Apparently, girls loved stuffed animals. At least that was what she had told him. Standing there awkwardly, Carlo wondered if he had gone overboard. But although the knight remained silent, the atmosphere somehow suggested that she appreciated the effort. It wasn't obvious. She wasn't the type to openly express her emotions. Still, Carlo could tell she didn't dislike it. Wanting to be helpful, he told her that if she needed anything at all, she only had to ask. Her response came immediately. She didn't need anything. As long as she had a place to sleep, that was enough. Everything else was unnecessary. The answer was exactly what Carlo expected from someone who had spent her entire life as a knight. Still, he accepted her words without argument. And so, their unusual life together began. 1 year passed. A lot could change in a year. Inside her room, Alba sat comfortably on her bed. Surrounding her were numerous stuffed animals. The same woman who once claimed she needed nothing was now quietly spending her free time playing with them. The contrast was honestly adorable. Unfortunately for her, Carlo happened to walk in at exactly the wrong moment. Seeing the collection, he casually asked if she wanted more stuffed animals. The reaction was immediate. Alba froze. Then her face turned red with embarrassment. She quickly complained that he should knock before entering someone's room. Carlo blinked in confusion. He had already knocked. Despite her attempts to hide it, it was obvious she had settled into her new life surprisingly well. As if proving it, Alba reached for her favorite stuffed animal, a cat, and hugged it tightly. The sight alone showed how much she had changed. Sometime later, Carlo was working in the yard when Alba returned home. As usual, he welcomed her back. However, something immediately caught his attention. The clothes she was wearing. Carlo stared for a moment before asking about them. Alba casually explained that they were simply her everyday clothes. That answer only made Carlo more confused. In his mind, a possibility slowly formed. Maybe she didn't actually own any normal civilian clothing. After all, she had spent most of her life as a knight. Without thinking too much about it, Carlo suggested that they go shopping for clothes together sometime. Alba immediately rejected the idea. No hesitation. No consideration. Just a direct refusal. As she brushed her hair aside, Carlo found himself refusing to give up so easily. Seeing her struggle with her long hair, he casually offered to help tie it. Then he reached out. The moment his hand approached, Alba stopped him. Her reaction was surprisingly strong. "Don't touch." The words came out firmly enough to make Carlo freeze. Alba immediately walked away. Meanwhile, Carlo hurriedly apologized. He explained that he had only reacted that way because helping with hair reminded him of taking care of his sister. Alba eventually told him she appreciated everything he had done for her. But she also wanted him to stop fussing over her so much. Watching her leave, Carlo couldn't help feeling discouraged. Standing outside the mansion, he began wondering if she secretly hated him. Could living together really work if things stayed like this? Time passed. Another year went by. One day, Carlo was sitting on the sofa searching through some documents when Alba suddenly approached him. Noticing her standing there, he casually asked what was on her mind. Instead of answering immediately, Alba stepped closer. Then she surprised him. Holding a hair tie in her hand, she quietly made a request. She wanted him to tie her hair. For a moment, Carlo simply stared. After all, this was the same person who had once refused to let him touch her. Still, he happily agreed. As he carefully tied her hair, neither of them said much. The silence felt comfortable now. Natural. Once he finished, Carlo noticed something. Alba looked happy. It wasn't a dramatic smile. It wasn't an emotional speech. Just a small expression that spoke louder than words. At some point, without either of them realizing it, living together had started going very well. Later, Carlo noticed an injury on Alba's face. Naturally, he immediately asked what had happened. Alba explained that she had gotten involved in a fight. Since she was a little rusty, she had made a mistake and ended up injured. To Carlo, that explanation wasn't nearly good enough. He insisted they treat the wound immediately. Alba disagreed. She claimed she didn't need help. The injury would heal on its own. Carlo tried explaining that wasn't how wounds worked. Unfortunately, Alba completely ignored him and announced that she was going to take a bath first. Watching her leave reminded Carlo of the person she used to be. The Alba from years ago. The woman who always preferred handling everything alone. Back in the present, the two of them were spending time together in the kitchen. Carlo asked Alba to help chop vegetables. Just seeing her participate was unusual enough that he commented on how rare it was for her to help with cooking. Unfortunately, things quickly went wrong. Carlo suddenly noticed her hands shaking while holding the knife. A moment later, Alba admitted she had cut herself. Then, to Carlo's surprise, she asked him to take care of it. For a second, he almost couldn't believe what he had heard. The woman who once refused all help was now actively asking for it. Carefully taking her hand, Carlo examined the injury. Soon, a bandage was wrapped around her finger. As they sat together afterward, Alba stared at the food they had prepared. A bowl of stew sat on the table beside a plate of omelette rice. Looking at the meal, Alba quietly asked if Carlo was actually going to eat it. The question alone felt strangely meaningful. Years ago she would never have cared. Now she wanted to know. Later that day, Alba noticed Carlo preparing to leave. Curious, she asked where he was going. Carlo explained that he had to attend a ball for work. The moment she heard that, Alba lowered her gaze. Then she quietly asked if there would be women attending the event. Carlo admitted he wasn't particularly excited about going either. Then an idea suddenly crossed his mind. Why not invite her? He asked if she wanted to come along. As expected, Alba immediately refused. She couldn't understand why he would even consider bringing her. Carlo accepted her answer. Before leaving, however, he looked at her and complimented her appearance. He told her she looked amazing in that dress. Alba silently watched him. Then Carlo turned toward the door. He was about to leave. But before he could take another step, a hand reached out from behind him. Alba grabbed him. For a moment, everything became still. Then she quietly told him not to let his eyes wander while he was at the ball. Carlo gently took her hand. A smile appeared on his face. Promising that he would return soon, he headed out. And with that sweet moment, this part of the story comes to an end. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Our goal is 1,000 likes, and part 2 will be uploaded within 4 days. Thanks for watching. The story continues with Carlo making another discovery about Alba's daily routine. One morning, or at least what Alba considered morning, Carlo notices movement outside the mansion. Curious, he steps outside and finds Alba already training. Even though she is no longer a knight, her sword moves through the air with practiced precision. Carlo stares for a moment before asking, "What are you doing?" Alba stops and looks at him. "Oh, you're awake. Just my morning training." Carlo glances at the dark sky. Morning training? In his mind, he can only think one thing. Morning? It's probably 3 in the morning. Most people are still asleep. Apparently, Alba is not most people. Trying to reason with her, Carlo reminds her that things are different now. You're not a knight anymore. You could sleep in a little. Unfortunately, Alba immediately shakes her head. No. I must always remain strong. The answer comes naturally. For Alba, strength isn't just important. It's part of who she is. Watching her continue training, Carlo can't help worrying. No matter how much time passes, she still pushes herself relentlessly. What is it going to take to get her to actually rest? The story then shifts to the present day. A lot has changed since then. This time, Alba is comfortably asleep in bed, surrounded by stuffed animals. The woman once feared as the strongest knight in the country now sleeps peacefully beside plush companions. Slowly her eyes begin to open. Something smells incredible. The aroma drifting through the mansion immediately catches her attention. Still half asleep, Alba hugs her favorite stuffed animal tightly before taking another breath. Whatever is being cooked downstairs smells too good to ignore. Before long, she makes her way downstairs and discovers the source. It's Carlo. He's busy preparing breakfast. The moment he notices her, he smiles. Good morning. Breakfast is almost ready. Alba quietly enters the kitchen. Carlo immediately notices that she still looks sleepy. She doesn't even try to deny it. At the same time, her excellent sense of smell is making things worse. Her stomach is practically begging for food. Seeing this, Carlo presents her with a piece of cake. I baked this morning. Help yourself. Then he reveals the source of his confidence. According to his sister, girls love sweet things. It sounded like good advice. At least in theory. Alba stands up. I appreciate the gesture, but I'll pass. Carlo blinks. I have no need for a treat. You should eat it yourself. Then she calmly walks away. The rejection isn't cruel. It's simply Alba being Alba. Still, Carlo can't hide his disappointment. After all, he really wanted her to enjoy it. The story then jumps forward. Later, Carlo returns home and notices something unusual. Alba is sitting quietly in a chair. And in front of her is the exact same cake she claimed she didn't want. The moment she notices Carlo looking at her, she freezes. Then she quickly tries to hide the evidence. Unfortunately, it's too late. Carlo walks over with a smile. That's the cake I made yesterday. Alba immediately becomes awkward. Meanwhile, Carlo feels surprisingly happy. The fact that she actually ate it means more than he expected. She accepted his effort. Even if she couldn't admit it directly. Trying to act normal, Alba holds the plate toward him. I saved some for you too. The gesture catches Carlo off guard. But instead of taking it, he simply smiles. You can have the whole thing. The response immediately gets Alba's attention. The whole thing? Her eyes widen. For a brief moment, all attempts at acting calm disappear. She looks genuinely delighted. In fact, she begins imagining herself eating the entire cake by herself. The thought alone seems to make her day much better. A little later, Carlo decides to invite Alba somewhere. He wants to show her the beautiful mimosa tree. So he asks if she would like to take a walk with him. To his surprise, she quietly agrees. Although walk might not be the word Alba has in mind. The moment they leave together, she immediately starts acting more like a bodyguard than a companion. Still, Carlo successfully gets her to come along. As they make their way toward town, people begin staring. And honestly, it's easy to understand why. Alba's presence is overwhelming. Even without armor, she gives off an intense pressure. Years of battle have left a powerful impression on everyone around her. The townspeople can't help looking. Walking beside her, Carlo finds himself looking at Alba as well. Not because of her reputation, but because she's beautiful. There's also something incredibly dignified about the way she carries herself. Even while simply walking through town, she stands out. Eventually, Alba notices him staring. Immediately, she calls him out. Carlo snaps back to reality. Then Alba asks a question that perfectly reflects her way of thinking. Are you looking for an opening to attack? The question catches Carlo completely off guard. He immediately panics. No. He quickly denies it and apologizes. To Alba, years of combat have shaped the way she views the world. Even now, her instincts never fully switch off. The story then returns to the present day. The two finally arrive near the mimosa tree. Spring has arrived. Flowers sway gently in the breeze, creating a calm and peaceful atmosphere. Looking around, Carlo smiles. Spring is finally here. As he says those words, his gaze naturally drifts toward Alba. And that's when he notices something. She looks happy. Not the distant Alba who first arrived at the mansion. Not the woman who insisted she needed nothing. The Alba standing beside him now is different. She's brighter, warmer, more expressive. Little by little, she has changed. Realizing he's staring again, Carlo quickly apologizes. Unfortunately, Alba notices immediately and points it out. The situation becomes slightly awkward. At the same time, Alba casually remarks that he still hasn't left any opening. Even during a peaceful walk, part of her mind remains focused on combat. But Carlo notices something else. Something much more important. Alba seems unusually prepared for this outing. The more he thinks about it, the more obvious it becomes. She didn't simply agree because he asked. She had actually been looking forward to this walk from the very beginning. And for someone like Alba, that realization means more than words ever could. If you want part 3 of the story, just give me 300 likes, thanks. In the next scene, Carlo and Alba, they both are walking together in the bazaar. Everyone is used to stare Alba. Watching this, Carlo said to Alba, "Can you stay behind me? This place is not looks real and normal." And suddenly a guy appear and stole Carlo's wallet and run away. Carlo said, "Watch out, he looks dangerous." But a knight does not care about the consequences, and she trying to jump and beat the hell off Tioa. Thief and get back Carlo's pockets. Alba said pickpockets are all over the place. Our MC got a little bit confused, but he still says thanks to Alba. People got shocked, they did not believe in their eyes. Carlo said you totally overdid it, it was a great job. But she replied it was not a big deal for her right now, she just simply not acting as a knight anymore. Carlo simply explained to Alba, maybe just hold them back or something. Next time let's try be a little gentle, okay? Violence is not a good option. But Alba did not like the idea. She got sad, but our MC cheered him up by saying, "Thank you, you looked really cool." Alba said to Carlos, scolding me and then praising me, "You are a weird guy, you weirdo." 1 year later, in this scene, they both walking together in the bazaar to get some bread. As he was about to buy the bread, suddenly a guy running from behind used to snitch bag of bread from Carlo's hand and running. But it was a bad day for a thief. Alba confront him and saying, "Give it back, I'll let you go if you do it now." He had no other choice to give them back. But Alba said, "Sorry to our MC, I messed up again. I told you not to let your guard down." But he got shy and said, "Thanks, I'll be more careful." "You are amazing, Alba." Alba used to stare Carlo and said, "Well, obviously," as they both walking together to home. She was a knight, even opponent way bigger than Alba, she does not care and apparently no match for her. To take them down, a bigger guy is a piece of cake for her. She's a knight. In the next scene, Alba sitting on the chair while eating the piece of cake and enjoying tea. Carlo said, "There's still more, you want anything?" But she replied, "I'm still not used to this." While holding the kettle in his hand, Carlo said, "It's important to take a break every day," and he messed up. But suddenly, Alba catching the kettle and saying, "Is this part of the break too?" She said, "Are you okay? Did you burn yourself? That was really hot." But he replied, "You're overacting, I'm fine." But she replied, "No, your hands are more important." She did not know what to say because that's the first time anyone worry about her. Carlo holding the hand of Alba and showing care. You can't even compare those two. In the end, she just let them handle it. Guys, if you want me to continue to creating this kind of amazing manga recap, please appreciate my work by like and subscribe to my channel. This is what I want from your side. I need your support. Give me 1000 like on this video and I'll upload the part 4. Thank you so much. The next chapter begins with Carlo preparing dinner for Alba. He leaves a plate with soup, bread, and an apple before quietly stepping out of the room. Alba watches him leave, while Carlo can't stop thinking about the strange situation he has found himself in. It has already been a week since Alba moved into his house, and honestly he has no idea what he is doing. Sitting alone in the library with a cup of tea and several books spread across the table, Carlo tries to read. Unfortunately, he cannot focus at all. He has always lived a quiet life by himself. He never had much reason to get close to women, so suddenly living with someone like Alba feels completely overwhelming. As he sits there, he remembers the person responsible for all of this. Louise, his former senior from school and now an operations assistant for the Night Order. She was the one who practically forced Alba into his care. Even back in school, Louise was always challenging him to fights, even though Carlo constantly reminded her that he wasn't a knight or a professional fighter. For some reason she always enjoyed bothering him. Carlo takes another sip of tea and thinks that he originally believed Louise would calm down once she started her career. Clearly he was wrong. Eventually he decides that enough is enough. Instead of continuing to complain to himself, he is going to speak to her directly. He wants to tell her that this situation is way beyond what he can handle. Not long after, Carlo meets Louise and immediately asks why she suddenly pushed Alba onto him. It has only been a week and he already feels completely lost. Louise doesn't seem surprised by his reaction. She points out that he barely knows Alba yet. Carlo argues that he still doesn't know the full story and feels completely unprepared for this responsibility. At that moment, Louise finally explains more about Alba. She tells him that Alba is one of the strongest warriors among the knights. On the battlefield, she is exceptional. The problem is that fighting is practically the only thing she knows. Outside of combat, she struggles with almost everything else. Meanwhile, back at Carlo's mansion, Alba remains on guard as always. When a mailman arrives carrying a letter for the owner of the house, Alba immediately mistakes him for an assassin. The poor man quickly explains that he is just delivering mail. Back with Louise, Carlo admits that he feels like every conversation with Alba ends with her dodging whatever he says. He stands up in frustration and admits that he genuinely doesn't know how to live with someone like her. Louise suddenly starts laughing. Carlo asks what is so funny. To her surprise, Carlo had casually called Alba beautiful. According to Louise, he is probably the first person who has ever described her that way. Carlo doesn't understand why that's such a big deal. Louise then reveals the painful reality of Alba's life. Most nobles don't see her as a woman. They call her a savage. Damaged goods. A pawn. Despite everything she has done protecting people, all she receives is prejudice. She spends her life fighting for others, yet almost nobody treats her with basic kindness or gratitude. Hearing this completely changes Carlo's perspective. The more he listens, the sadder he feels. Louise explains that what Alba lacks most isn't strength or skill. What she lacks is being treated like a normal human being. And that's exactly why she brought Alba to him. She believes Carlo is the kind of person who can give Alba the respect that everyone else has denied her. Later that night, Carlo walks home carrying a small gift while reflecting on everything Louise told him. He feels pathetic for complaining so much without understanding what Alba has gone through. When he arrives, he finds Alba standing outside the house in full armor. Confused, he asks why she's still wearing it. Alba calmly explains that she is guarding the perimeter. Carlo quickly hands her the letter that arrived earlier. After opening it, he realizes it came from his sister. He thanks Alba for receiving it on his behalf. Alba simply responds that she has successfully completed her guard duty and prepares to continue standing watch. Carlo immediately stops her. That night, he invites her to eat dinner together instead of remaining outside alone. The following morning, Carlo wakes up wondering what he should make for breakfast. Then he hears a strange voice outside. When he investigates, he discovers Alba already training intensely. She is completely focused on her practice and doesn't seem interested in stopping anytime soon. Carlo greets her. Without interrupting her training, Alba returns the greeting. Carlo tells her that breakfast will be ready soon and asks her to come eat. She simply tells him to call her when it's finished. Later, at the dining table, Carlo feels relieved when Alba actually joins him for breakfast. However, he quickly notices something unusual. She eats at an unbelievable speed. Carlo stares in shock and tells her that she can slow down if she wants. Alba explains that spending too much time eating could prevent her from reacting to enemies immediately. Carlo once again reminds her that there are no enemies here. Within moments, she finishes the entire meal. Then something interesting happens. After drinking some hot soup, Alba makes a slight expression. Carlo immediately notices and asks if she burned herself. Alba calmly confirms that the soup is hot. He suggests cooling it down first, but Alba insists there's no need. Carlo moves closer and gently checks on her. Following advice from his younger sister, he tries to take better care of Alba instead of simply leaving her alone. He tells her that burning herself isn't good and promises to get water. For perhaps the first time, Alba becomes slightly flustered. She doesn't show it openly, but internally she's confused by Carlo's kindness. When he returns with a jug of water, Alba drinks the entire thing almost instantly. Afterward, she asks what she should do next. Carlo tells her she can simply relax. Naturally, Alba refuses. To her, relaxing feels the same as being lazy. Realizing she needs something to do, Carlo starts assigning tasks. First, he asks her to do the laundry. Unfortunately, Alba is so strong that she accidentally destroys some of Carlo's clothes while washing them. She immediately apologizes. Carlo assures her it's fine and suggests trying something else. Next comes dishwashing. That goes exactly as well as you'd expect. She breaks the dishes too. Instead of getting angry, Carlo immediately checks whether any glass shards are stuck in her hand. After that, he suggests cleaning the house. Alba proudly claims she used to be good at cleaning during her apprentice days. Moments later, she starts cleaning at incredible speed. When Carlo checks on her progress, Alba accidentally knocks him over in the process. The floor ends up soaked, the room becomes a mess, and Alba starts feeling completely useless. For someone who excels at everything in battle, failing simple household tasks is surprisingly painful. Carlo notices her mood dropping. When he checks her hand, he discovers that she actually does have a shard stuck in it. Alba looks confused. Instead of scolding her, Carlo is worrying about her injuries. She genuinely doesn't understand why. Carlo simply tells her that it's common sense to care when someone gets hurt. Then he suddenly rushes into the kitchen and returns holding a tightly sealed jar. He explains that it's his favorite jam and that he has never been able to open it. Alba opens it effortlessly. To her, it's incredibly easy. Carlo is amazed. He thanks her sincerely because now he can finally use the jam again. This small success changes things. After that, Alba starts opening jars around the house before Carlo even asks. Watching this, Carlo realizes something important. Alba's incredible strength isn't a problem. Maybe he simply needs to find jobs that actually make use of it. As he thinks about what she could do next, he also remembers her injured hand and starts worrying whether he should really be asking her to use her strength so soon. Meanwhile, his sister points out that he's worrying way too much and that the injury isn't a big deal. Even so, Carlo can't help caring about Alba's well-being. After everything he has learned, he wants to make sure she's treated like a person first, not just a knight. The old vacation house once belonged to Carlo's grandfather. As a child, Carlo clearly remembered one strange warning. His grandfather looked at him with a serious expression and told him to stay away from the very last room on the second floor. Curious, Carlo asked why. His grandfather's answer was short but unsettling. According to him, that room was haunted, because someone lived inside it. Time passes and life inside the old house continues peacefully. Carlo spends the afternoon quietly studying in the library while enjoying a warm cup of tea. The silence makes the entire house feel calm, until an unexpected sound suddenly echoes through the hallway. His attention immediately shifts toward the noise. "Who's there?" he calls out before stepping outside to investigate. The moment he opens the door, he finds Alba already standing in the hallway. Her expression is unusually serious as she tells him that someone just entered the forbidden room. Carlo looks at her in confusion. "But, we're the only two people living here. What are you talking about?" Alba refuses to back down. She's certain she heard someone inside. The room she points toward is the exact same room Carlo's grandfather warned him about years ago. Without showing even the slightest hesitation, Alba instantly switches into combat mode. Her posture becomes sharp, her eyes lock onto the door, and in one swift motion she throws it open, fully prepared to face whatever might be hiding inside. Her movements are so quick and precise that they almost resemble a martial arts master charging into battle. Watching her charge in without fear leaves Carlo completely speechless. "Alba, are you okay?" She calmly glances back at him. "I'm fine." Instead of looking nervous, she almost sounds amused. "Wait, are you actually scared of ghosts?" Carlo stays silent, unable to answer. The two slowly search every corner of the mysterious room. To their surprise, it's completely empty. No footsteps. No mysterious stranger. No sign that anyone was ever there. Alba quietly scans the room one more time. They're not here. Her eyes continue searching every shadow. Are they hiding? Meanwhile, Carlo can't stop thinking about his grandfather's warning. This has to be the room he was talking about. Because of that story, Carlo had never once stepped inside. This is his first time entering it. As he looks around, he notices years of dust covering every surface. Feels like nobody has opened this room for ages. Trying to laugh off his own uneasiness, Carlo awkwardly comments that maybe the room really is haunted after all. Alba immediately dismisses the idea. A warrior who survived countless battlefields isn't afraid of ghosts. She crosses her arms confidently before adding, "Why be scared of something when you don't even know if it exists?" At that exact moment, something suddenly falls over by itself. Carlo's entire body stiffens. That just moved on its own, didn't it? Alba remains perfectly calm. "If it's an intruder, I'll find them and throw them out. That's all there is to it." Carlo can only stare at her in disbelief. It becomes obvious that Alba simply isn't the type of person who believes in ghosts. After spending her life fighting on battlefields, stories about haunted rooms mean absolutely nothing to her. Then, out of the corner of his eye, Carlo catches a glimpse of a dark figure reflected inside the mirror. His breathing nearly stops. Wait, did something just? He rubs his eyes, unable to believe what he just saw. Meanwhile, Alba follows the mysterious sound deeper into the room, completely focused on finding its source. For the first time in a long while, Carlo genuinely feels afraid. He suddenly realizes Alba is nowhere near him anymore. His heart begins racing as he nervously looks around. "Alba, where did you go?" A second later, he spots her standing farther inside the room. Relieved, he quickly walks over. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Seeing how relaxed she is, Carlo can't help asking again. "You're really not scared of ghosts?" "Of course not." She calmly looks around once more. "There's nothing here." Carlo notices the unusual stance she's holding. What kind of stance is that? It's to make sure I won't get caught off guard. Just then, the mysterious shadow finally reveals itself. It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a monster. It was simply a black cat quietly sitting on top of a table. The tension instantly disappears. Later, Carlo decides to make Alba a cup of coffee. It's the first time he's ever prepared one especially for her. After taking a single sip, Alba immediately frowns. It's bitter. I'd rather drink cocoa. Carlo smiles awkwardly. He had actually prepared hot cocoa as well because he guessed she might prefer something sweeter. As for himself, he has always loved drinking black coffee. Curious, Alba asks which one he personally prefers. Carlo explains that he usually drinks coffee without adding anything to it, even though many people think it's far too bitter. Hearing that makes Alba pause for a moment. If that's what you drink, I'll have coffee too. She decides to challenge herself. Slowly, she takes another sip. Watching her reaction, Carlo can practically read her expression. She's definitely not enjoying it. Trying to help, he quickly offers her some sugar. I've got sugar if you want. But Alba immediately refuses. If I can't handle something this simple, it would disgrace my knighthood. Her overly serious answer almost catches Carlo off guard. In his mind, everyone has foods they dislike. There's nothing embarrassing about that. Without saying another word, he quietly prepares another cup. This time, he adds plenty of sugar. Then pours in milk as well. He gently places the new cup in front of Alba. She carefully takes another sip. Almost instantly, her expression softens. I prefer it this way. Hearing those words makes Carlo smile with relief. I'm glad you like it. Alba nods. But I'd still like a little more sugar. Carlo hands her the sugar container. Without the slightest hesitation, she pours an unbelievable amount into the cup. She keeps going and going until nearly the entire container is empty. Carlo can only stare in complete shock. That's a lot. Alba proudly looks at the overflowing sweetness. This is perfect. I like it this way. Watching the mountain of sugar disappear into the coffee, Carlo lets out a helpless smile. Alba, you should probably just stick to cocoa. The next chapter begins with Carlo remembering Alba's reaction to the coffee. Judging by how much sugar she used, he's completely convinced she has an enormous sweet tooth. Wanting to surprise her, Carlo spends time in the kitchen carefully preparing several homemade desserts. As he finishes placing them on the plate, he quietly hopes they turned out well. I just hope she'll try at least one. When he proudly presents the sweets to Alba, she immediately shakes her head. I'll pass. Without even giving them a closer look, she firmly declares, I do not eat sweets. Carlo blinks in confusion. But, you actually like sweet drinks. Can't you at least try one piece? The moment those words leave his mouth, Alba suddenly places her hand heavily on the table. Her sharp eyes lock onto Carlo. What makes you think a knight likes sweets? The intimidating pressure catches Carlo completely off guard. He nervously explains himself. I mean, you preferred cocoa over coffee. You don't have to hold yourself back. You're allowed to enjoy things here. Alba quietly insists. I'm not holding back. Even so, her eyes secretly drift toward the desserts sitting on the table. They look incredibly delicious. Her determination slowly begins to crumble. After a long moment of internal struggle, she finally gives in. Well, maybe just one bite. Carlo immediately brightens. Go ahead. Pick whichever one you want. Alba carefully reaches for one of the cakes. She stares at it for a brief moment before taking her first bite. The room falls completely silent. Carlo anxiously waits for her reaction. So, how is it? The instant the sweetness melts inside her mouth, her eyes widen in complete surprise. The flavor is far better than she ever imagined. Deep inside, she's completely overwhelmed. But despite everything she's feeling, she stubbornly refuses to show it. It's not bad. Even with those simple words, Carlo can tell she likes it. His face immediately lights up. Before long, Alba quietly finishes the entire dessert. Then another. Without realizing it herself, she ends up eating every last bite. She can't stop wondering how something sweet could taste this good. The experience leaves a surprisingly deep impression on her. Later, a memory from Alba's past suddenly resurfaces. She remembers her strict training days. Her instructor constantly pushed her forward. Don't be late for assembly. Focus only on training. Work yourself until your body reaches its limit. Those harsh lessons shaped the knight she became. Always training. always staying alert, never allowing herself to relax. Back in the present, Alba lies quietly on her bed. For a moment, she finds herself thinking about those exhausting days. Eventually, she opens her eyes. Bright sunlight fills the room. She freezes. It's morning. Realization immediately hits her. Did I seriously oversleep? Meanwhile, Carlo walks outside and discovers Alba already training non-stop. She swings her weapon again and again without taking a single break. Completely focused on her routine, she calmly says, "I won't be needing any meals today. I'll take care of my own training." Without slowing down for even a moment, she continues pushing her body to its limits, refusing both food and water as she devotes herself entirely to training. Training without eating or even drinking water finally begins to catch up with Alba. The exhaustion she has been ignoring slowly overwhelms her body, leaving her too weak to continue. She collapses onto her bed, staring at the ceiling while trying to understand why she's pushing herself so hard. Her empty stomach growls, but she refuses to give in. What am I even doing? She closes her eyes, hoping sleep will help her forget the hunger. Meanwhile, Carlo quietly walks down the hallway toward her room. In one hand he carries a stuffed cat plush and in the other, a small homemade dessert. Inside her room, Alba clenches her fists. No. This is exactly the problem. She blames the comfortable bed beneath her. She blames Carlo's kindness. She had never overslept a single day in her life until she started living here. If I keep letting him take care of me like this, I'm going to become completely soft. As a knight, she believes her duty is to stay disciplined at all times. Allowing herself to enjoy comfort feels like betraying everything she has trained for. 2 hours pass. Despite lying in bed the entire time, she can't fall asleep. The hunger is simply too much. How pathetic. I might as well spend the night training. Just as she's about to get up, a gentle knock comes from outside the door. Alba, are you awake? It's Carlo. I brought you a late-night snack. If you don't want to see me, I'll just leave it outside. Hearing his quiet voice makes Alba hesitate. She lowers her head. I can't believe I'm letting him take care of me again. After a brief silence, she softly replies, "Thank you." Unable to resist her hunger any longer, she eats every last bite. With a full stomach at last, she falls asleep almost immediately. The following day, Carlo once again prepares Alba's favorite drinks and sweets before gently reminding her, "You can do whatever you want here, Alba." His kindness only makes her feelings even more complicated. Later, Alba quietly sits alone and begins writing a letter. She pours her thoughts onto the page. If I stay here, I'll become too soft. A knight should never lose her discipline. After finishing the letter, she quietly makes up her mind. She's leaving. The next morning, Carlo wakes up and immediately notices something feels different. Normally, Alba would already be outside practicing her sword swings. Today, she's nowhere to be seen. That's unusual. Thinking back to yesterday, he remembers she seemed strangely upset. Did I do something that made her angry? Still believing she's inside her room, Carlo prepares breakfast and walks over to check on her. He gently knocks on the door. Alba, do you want breakfast? No answer. After waiting a moment, he slowly opens the door. The room is completely empty. His eyes immediately fall on a letter resting on the table. He carefully picks it up and begins reading. Thank you for taking care of me. Please tell Lord Louise that I left on my own. If I stay here, I'll become soft. I'm going to live on my own. As Carlo lowers the letter, he notices the open window beside the bed. His expression fills with concern. Did she leave through there? Meanwhile, Alba is already walking through the busy marketplace with a travel bag over her shoulder. The streets are crowded with people going about their day. As she passes by, several young men notice her. Hey there, cute lady. Hold on a second. One of them approaches with a friendly smile. Alba suddenly stops. She slowly turns toward him. Did you just call me cute? Yeah. The moment he answers, her entire presence changes. She stands tall with the dignity of a proud knight. I'm a knight. Calling me cute is disrespectful. The young man immediately falls silent. A nearby shopkeeper tries a different approach. Since you're so cute, I'll even give you a discount. Without hesitation, Alba rejects the offer. I don't want your food. I don't want your merchandise. Even though she confidently refuses. The truth is she hasn't eaten anything since leaving Carlo's house that morning. Eventually, her hunger wins. She ends up buying food anyway. A little later, shouting echoes from nearby. A frightened village girl desperately tells someone to go away. Another person casually brushes it off. Come on. You should be used to them by now. This part of town has always been full of pests. Before anyone else can react, Alba steps forward. Without hesitation, she uses her strength to deal with the problem herself. Her movements are fast, precise, and worthy of a knight. The village girls stare at her in complete surprise. Who are you? Alba calmly answers. I'm a knight. No need to thank me. As evening approaches, Alba quietly sits beneath a tree while watching the sunset. Not far away, she notices a young couple sitting together at a table. One gently apologizes to the other. Just bear with me a little longer. They quietly look after one another with genuine care. Watching them unexpectedly reminds Alba of Carlo. She remembers how carefully he treated her whenever she accidentally burned her lips on hot coffee or hurt her hands. Every small act of kindness flashes through her mind. She grips her knees tightly. That's exactly what's making me soft. Before she can think any further, several voices call out from behind the tree. Hey there, pretty lady. 3 young men slowly approach her. Mind helping us with something? Meanwhile, back at the house, Carlo remains completely lost in thought. What should I do? If I go looking for her, my senior will probably scold me. Maybe this is for the best. He tries convincing himself to stay home. After all, he spent most of his life alone. People rarely visited him. Most believed he was nothing more than a quiet bookworm who shut himself away inside his library. And honestly, he never minded. He always preferred a peaceful life surrounded by books. He simply wanted to live quietly. Yet, as he sits there alone, a memory suddenly appears in his mind. He remembers Alba smiling as she thanked him. Thank you for letting me stay. Ever since she entered his life, everything changed. He constantly found himself doing things he never would have done before. Helping someone. Worrying about someone. Looking forward to seeing someone every day. Now that she's gone, he tells himself life can finally return to normal. Maybe Alba would even find it annoying if he chased after her. Trying to distract himself, Carlo picks up a long novel and prepares some tea. He starts reading. But no matter how hard he tries, his eyes refuse to focus on the pages. The words blur together. The sky outside slowly turns orange. Then dark. Evening arrives. Alba still hasn't returned. Eventually, Carlo heads into the kitchen. Since he's alone tonight, he decides a simple dinner will be enough. I'll just make some coffee. As the coffee brews, his thoughts drift back to Alba again. I wonder if she's doing okay? He immediately shakes his head. No. She's a knight. If I worry about her, she'll probably just get angry. Even so, as he prepares the coffee, he remembers the first cup he ever made for her. He remembers how she insisted it wasn't bad after adding an unbelievable amount of sugar. Without realizing it, he reaches for the sugar container and begins pouring it into the cup exactly the way Alba liked it. The moment he notices what he's doing, he freezes. A small smile appears on his face. This isn't normal. He sets the cup down. His hesitation finally disappears. All right. I'm going to look for her. In the next scene, Alba is sitting quietly in a garden when a group of young men approaches her. They politely ask if she can show them the way. Alba looks at them and asks where they are trying to go. The men explain that they are looking for the dock where the ships unload their cargo. Since it is their first time in the city, they have no idea where the warehouse district is, and they have already gotten lost. Alba calmly points them in the right direction, explaining that the dock is to the east and that they should find it if they continue that way. However, the men keep insisting that she come with them because they have already tried searching and still cannot find the place. Alba falls silent for a moment. She clearly does not want to get involved, but eventually realizes there is no point arguing. With a reluctant expression, she agrees to lead them there. The men immediately thank her, and the group starts walking together. As they approach the dock, Alba points ahead and tells them that the destination should be just up there. The man who was supposed to receive their cargo should already be waiting, but strangely, there is no sign of him. Then the men ask Alba to help them look around. However, the moment they reach the warehouse district, Alba notices something is wrong. The area is completely deserted. There is nobody around, and the silence makes the entire place feel strangely unsettling. Alba continues forward, carefully observing her surroundings, until she finally spots the person who was supposedly waiting for the cargo. But then she discovers the truth. These men were never innocent travelers looking for directions. Several young girls are locked inside cages nearby, desperately begging for help. Alba immediately demands to know why they are being held captive. The men casually reveal that they plan to sell the girls because they can make a good profit from them. The moment Alba hears this, her entire demeanor changes. The helpless girls continue pleading for someone to save them, while one of the kidnappers steps toward Alba and places a hand on her shoulder. He warns her to stay still, claiming they will not need to use force if she cooperates. But Alba has already made her decision. What follows becomes a complete nightmare for the kidnappers. Alba suddenly unleashes her strength and begins taking them down one after another. Her movements are fast, powerful, and precise, leaving the criminals completely stunned by her fighting ability. Once the danger is gone, Alba turns toward the frightened girls inside the cages. Instead of letting them panic, she calmly reassures them that everything is going to be all right. She tells them that she is a female knight. Meanwhile, Carlo is still searching desperately for Alba. He approaches one person after another, asking if they have seen a tall woman with curly hair, but everyone keeps giving him the same answer. No one has seen her. After searching for nearly half an hour, Carlo begins to realize that he still has no real clue where she could have gone. Then someone suddenly remembers her. A person describes a tall woman with an intense look in her eyes, someone who seemed a little intimidating. A shopkeeper confirms that he saw her after she bought some bread. According to him, she headed toward the western square. Carlo immediately thanks him and rushes in that direction. When he reaches the garden, he approaches a young couple and asks if they have seen a tall woman with curly hair. The girl immediately recognizes who he means. She remembers seeing the woman walking with 3 men earlier. Her companion also confirms that the woman was quite tall. Carlo quickly asks where they went. The man explains that they appeared to be heading toward the dock, although he finds it strange because neither the ships nor the cargo transport should still be operating at this hour. Carlo thanks them and immediately heads toward the dock. By the time he arrives, darkness has already settled over the area. While searching around, Carlo begins hearing rumors about kidnappers. People have apparently been abducting young girls recently, and locals warn him that it is dangerous to wander around after dusk. Still, Carlo is not overly worried about Alba. He knows how capable she is in a fight, and more importantly, she is a female knight. He continues toward the dock, expecting to find her somewhere nearby. But when he arrives, the place appears completely empty. Then, suddenly, several young girls come running out. Carlo stares at them in confusion, wondering what they could possibly be doing at the dock at such a late hour. One of the girls urgently warns him not to go any farther. She explains that they were kidnapped and held captive there, but a knight came and rescued them. The moment Carlo hears the word knight, one person immediately comes to mind. Alba. He quickly asks if that knight is still there. The girl explains that Alba told them not to be afraid, so she believes the knight should still be nearby. Carlo immediately heads deeper into the dock. And there he finally finds her. Alba looks at Carlo and calmly asks why he has come all the way here. But Carlo can barely process what he is seeing. Several large men have already been defeated, and Alba is standing among them as if nothing happened. Carlo is completely stunned. He cannot understand what he is looking at or how Alba managed to take down the entire group by herself. In the next chapter, Alba explains exactly what happened. The men were planning to sell the kidnapped women. For a moment, Carlo is completely speechless. Then he starts putting the pieces together. The girls who escaped must have contacted the patrol guards, which means they could arrive at any moment. Carlo immediately grabs Alba's hand. Alba looks at him in confusion as he tells her that they need to run. She questions why they are running in the first place and reminds him that he is currently under house arrest. Carlo quickly explains that if the knights spot him here, it could cause serious trouble. Without wasting another second, they take off. As they rush through the area, Carlo warns Alba to watch her step. But their escape does not go unnoticed. The guards suddenly appear and order them to stop. Neither of them listens. They keep running until they finally get far enough away to stop for a moment. Carlo then asks Alba why she keeps bothering with him. Alba's response is surprisingly blunt. She reminds him that she left the estate without even telling him, and that her personal affairs should have nothing to do with him. Carlo simply smiles. Despite everything that just happened, he is relieved that they managed to escape. Then, while still holding Alba's hand, he notices something. He asks if her hand hurts and gently asks to see it. There is an injury on Alba's hand. Carlo immediately realizes that he grabbed her arm without thinking and apologizes. Alba pulls her hand back and asks him directly why he cares about her so much. Carlo admits that there is no special reason. But after thinking about it, he explains that he simply cannot turn his back on someone who is right in front of him, just as Alba cannot abandon someone when her duty as a knight calls for her to act. Carlo then focuses on her injury. He tells Alba that rescuing those kidnapped women was incredibly brave and that she absolutely did the right thing. However, he also points out that she always pushes herself too hard. He carefully treats her injury and wraps a bandage around her hand. Then Carlo suggests that they call it a day and get some rest. He reminds her that he even made some hot cocoa, and that there are still threats left over from yesterday. He makes it clear that he is not trying to force her to come with him. Still, deep down, Carlo realizes that he is talking as if Alba has already decided to return, almost like someone who ran away from home. To his surprise, Alba actually agrees. She suggests that maybe she will come back after dinner tonight. Carlo is completely stunned. The two of them continue holding hands as they make their way back to his home. Once they arrive, Carlo asks Alba what she would like for dinner. Alba casually tells him that most of the food he makes is pretty good. Carlo then suggests making stew. And before long they are finally back home, safe and sound. Carlo prepares Alba's favorite dish and places it in front of her. The moment Alba starts eating, she completely surprises him. She devours the meal incredibly quickly, then goes back for a second serving and finishes that just as fast. After everything that happened at the dock, the terrifying night finally ends with Alba enjoying a warm meal in the safety of Carlo's home. Subscribe so I can buy cookies for my grandpa. The next chapter begins with Carlo preparing breakfast for Alba, and before long, the two of them are sitting together at the dining table, quietly enjoying their meal. Afterward, Carlo casually mentions that it has been a long time since he filled the bathtub with hot water. If Alba wants, she is free to use it. The moment Alba hears the word bathtub, she pauses in confusion. For a moment, the idea itself seems unfamiliar to her. But after thinking about it, she eventually agrees. Back in the knightly order, bathing with nothing but water was completely normal. Soaking inside a bathtub, however, was considered more of a luxury, something usually enjoyed by nobles. And that is exactly why Alba doesn't seem very interested in the idea. Still, Carlo simply tells her to take her time. A little later, Alba removes her clothes and prepares to step into the bathtub. In her mind, soaking in hot water feels like nothing more than a waste of time. But after coming this far, she decides she might as well try it at least once. Meanwhile, Carlo suddenly realizes something. The water might actually be too hot. And unfortunately, Alba discovers that herself. The instant she touches the hot water, her entire body freezes. The heat is far more intense than she expected, and in her mind, the whole experience feels less like a relaxing bath and more like actual torture. Meanwhile, Carlo keeps trying to explain that she needs to stir the water first before getting in. But by the time Alba finally settles into the bathtub, she goes completely blank. Then, as the warmth slowly surrounds her body, a strange feeling comes over her. She can actually feel all the strength leaving her body. Outside the room, Carlo suddenly notices how quiet everything has become. For a moment he starts wondering if something went wrong. Hopefully she's enjoying it. Eventually, Alba finishes her bath and comes out. Carlo immediately asks her what she thought about it. After everything she went through, Alba gives him a surprisingly simple answer. It wasn't bad. Carlo is clearly happy to hear that. But then he notices her wet hair and immediately tells her that if she doesn't dry it properly, she might catch a cold. Before Alba can even react, Carlo moves closer and starts checking her hair. Alba immediately looks at him in confusion. What exactly is he doing? She insists that her hair will dry on its own eventually. But Carlo doesn't seem interested in listening. Instead, he grabs a towel and begins drying her hair himself. Alba quickly protests. She's not a child anymore. But Carlo continues drying her hair as if he never even heard her. Once he's done, he simply smiles and tells her that he's glad she enjoyed the bath. And that's when Alba realizes something. He's treating her like a child. The strange part is that the bath itself actually turned out to be quite pleasant. But for some reason that only makes Alba even more frustrated. Later that night, Carlo suddenly wakes up. For some reason he just can't fall asleep. After lying awake for a while, he decides to get up and grab some water. But as he makes his way through the house, he notices someone standing silently in front of the window. It's Alba. Carlo asks her why she's still awake. Alba explains that staying alert during the night is more important. Carlo looks at her and casually points out that, at least, this is better than standing guard while wearing full armor. Then he asks her another question. Is she hungry? Alba immediately says no. But only moments later, the silence is broken by the unmistakable sound of her stomach growling. Alba freezes. Without hesitation, she immediately denies everything. That wasn't her stomach. Carlo can't help smiling. Of course it was. But Alba continues insisting that the sound definitely didn't come from her. Seeing how obvious the situation is, Carlo decides to prepare something for her anyway. A little later he places a simple meal on the dining table. There is warm soup and some bread. At that point Alba finally gives up pretending. Fine. She is hungry. As Alba takes her first bite of the soup, Carlo casually mentions that sometimes there are nights when a person simply can't fall asleep. Alba looks at him and asks if that happens to him too. Carlo says that it does. Sometimes when he has too many things on his mind, sleep just doesn't come. And on nights like that he doesn't force himself to lie in bed. Instead he gets up, eats something small, talks for a while and simply waits until he starts feeling sleepy again. The two of them continue eating together in the quiet of the night. Eventually they finish their meal. Alba gets up and quietly tells him good night. Carlo prepares to head back to his room and tells her that she should get some proper rest as well. But then Alba says something that makes him stop for a moment. She actually says good night back to him. Carlo stands there, slightly confused. For the first time Alba has actually returned his greeting. And somehow that small moment catches him completely off guard. By the next morning, it seems the late-night meal and conversation had the same effect on both of them. For once Carlo and Alba sleep peacefully. And neither of them wakes up until late in the morning. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button, thanks.